Welcome to Searching the Scriptures. Our Bible teacher will be Gunther von Harringa Sr. In this series of studies, we will be focusing on the book of Judges. In Acts 17:11 we read, "These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the Scriptures daily, whether those things were so." So without further ado, let's look into God's Word, the Bible.
Good evening and welcome to Searching the Scriptures. This is going to be Judges 5, part 38, and I'll go ahead and read from verses 15 through 18. And the princes of Issachar were with Deborah, even Issachar and also Barak. He was sent on foot into the valley. For the divisions of Reuben there were great thoughts of heart. Why abodest thou among the sheepfolds, to hear the bleatings of the flocks? For the divisions of Reuben there were great searchings of heart. Gilead abode beyond Jordan, and why did Dan remain in ships? Asher continued on the seashore, and abode in his breaches. Zebulun and Naphtali were a people that jeoparded their lives unto the death in the high places of the field. In our last study, we began looking at Asher, and we left off at the phrase, "and abode in his breaches." And abode is Strong's number 7931, and in his breaches is 4664. The term "and abode" we actually saw previously with respect to Gilead at the beginning of verse 17, in part 35, and it's primarily translated as dwell or abide, and is only found in this verse connected to breaches. And the term breaches, again, is only found in this verse, but its root word, which is 6555, surfaces 48 other times, and we'll take a look at a few of them. In part 36, when we discussed the term ships, which was Strong's number 591, which were broken as a result of the unholy alliance that good King Jehoshaphat of Judah made with wicked King Ahaziah of Israel, as we find recorded in 2 Chronicles 20, verse 37. In which Strong's number 6555 is translated as "hath broken," with regard to Jehoshaphat's works. Then Eliezer, the son of Dodavah of Mareshah, prophesied against Jehoshaphat, saying, "Because thou hast joined thyself with Ahaziah, Jehovah hath broken thy works." And the ships were broken, that they were not able to go to Tarshish. If you recall, the ships typify the gospel going out, as Jesus says, "I'll make you fishers of men," during the day of salvation. But in this verse, we find another word besides "hath broken," which is the word we're looking at, the root word for breaches. Strong 6555. This other word is "were broken," referring to the ships. And this is a different word altogether. It's Strong's number 7665. Now, another place where we find the term 6555 is in Ecclesiastes 3, verse 3. And here it's rendered as "to break down" in this passage that is quite familiar because of the repetitive nature of the times and seasons that God is always following. We read here, "a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up." This word to break down is Strong 6555. Now, we can also go to Isaiah 5, 1-7, which is part of a parable relating to national Israel, which represents the end-time institutional churches and denominations. And in verse 5, this word is also rendered as "and break down." Now will I sing to my beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill, and he fenced it, and gathered out the stones thereof, and planted it with the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And this literally means, wild grapes means a stench. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth a stench. And now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. For the vineyard of Jehovah of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. Pardon me. We also want to keep in mind with regard to verse 6, where he says, I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. Remember, there were these two great seasons of rain, the early Pentecostal rain on May 22nd, 33 AD, when the church age began. And then, of course, on September 7th, 1994, for the last 17 years of the Great Tribulation up till May 21, 2011, the latter rain, where God saved the great multitude of people from all over the world prior to shutting the door on May 21, 2011. The breaking down of the wall, as we read here in Isaiah 5:5, also reminds us of a couple other places which include a different Hebrew word for wall, yet they help us to see the spiritual significance that God has hidden within this expression. Isaiah 60:18 declares, Violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders, but thou shalt call thy walls salvation, and thy gates praise. Also, Isaiah 26:1 likewise affirms, In that day shall this song be sung in the land of Judah. We have a strong city, salvation will God appoint for walls and bulwarks. And this word salvation is Strong's number 3444. Also, we can go to the New Testament in Matthew 23:37-39, which is a chapter that contains one of the most scathing denunciations against the religious leaders of Jesus' day that we find in the entire Bible. And in verses 1-5 of the next chapter, chapter 24, pardon me, we learn of the fall of the New Testament churches and denominations worldwide and without exception on May 21, 1988, as well as the chief characteristic of the Great Tribulation, which is deception. And that began on that very same day, May 21, 1988, and lasted for a full 23 years or 8,400 days until May 21, 2011, when judgment began at the house of God, as we read in 1 Peter 4:17, and then transitioned on that date, May 21, 2011, to the world at large, and in its wake, the door to heaven was shut. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets, and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, you shall not see me henceforth, till ye shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple. And his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Well, that takes us down to verse 18 of Judges 5, where we read, Zebulun and Naphtali were a people that jeoparded their lives unto the death in the high places of the field. We've already considered both Zebulun and Naphtali in Judges 4, and also Zebulun here in chapter 5 as well. You might also recall that these two tribes, who along with Dan and three of the other tribes, were commissioned to pronounce curses on top of Mount Ebal. And these shall stand upon Mount Ebal to curse Reuben, Gad, and Asher, and Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali. So with that in mind, let's consider what the rest of the passage says about them. A people that jeoparded their lives unto the death in the high places of the field. The word or the Strong's number for people is 5971, and jeoparded is 2778. These two terms are found together in four other scriptures. The term jeoparded is generally always translated as reproached or to rail. It's only translated as jeoparded here in our verse 18 of Judges 5. Let's look at 2 Chronicles 32, 1-21. And here we learn of the king of Assyria's attempt to overthrow Judah and Jerusalem, as he had done earlier in 709 BC with regard to the 10 northern tribes. And in verse 17 of 2 Chronicles 32, these two terms are translated as their people and his people, and also to rail. After these things and the establishment thereof, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came and entered into Judah and encamped against the fenced cities, and thought to win them for himself. And when Hezekiah saw that Sennacherib was come, and that he was purposed to fight against Jerusalem, he took counsel with his princes and his mighty men to stop the waters of the fountains, which were without or outside the city, and they did help him. So there was gathered much people together, who stopped all the fountains and the brook that ran through the midst of the land, saying, Why should the kings of Assyria come and find much water? And he strengthened himself and built up all the wall that was broken, and raised it up to the towers, and another wall without, and repaired Millo in the city of David, and made darts and shields in abundance. And he set captains of war over the people, and gathered them together to him in the street of the gate of the city, and spake comfortably to them, saying, Be strong and courageous, be not afraid nor dismayed for the king of Assyria, nor for all the multitude that is with him. For there be more with us than with him. With him is an arm of flesh, but with us is Jehovah our God to help us and to fight our battles. And the people rested themselves upon the words of Hezekiah, king of Judah. After this did Sennacherib, king of Assyria, send his servants to Jerusalem, but he himself laid siege against Lachish, and all his power with him, unto Hezekiah, king of Judah, and unto all Judah that were at Jerusalem, saying, Thus saith Sennacherib, king of Assyria, Whereon do ye trust, that ye abide in the siege in Jerusalem? Doth not Hezekiah persuade you to give over yourselves to die by famine and by thirst, saying, Jehovah our God shall deliver us out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Hath not the same Hezekiah taken away his high places and his altars, and commanded Judah and Jerusalem, saying, Ye shall worship before one altar, and burn incense upon it? Know ye not what I and my fathers have done unto all the people of other lands? Were the gods of the nations of those lands any ways able to deliver their lands out of mine hand? Who was there among all the gods of those nations that my fathers utterly destroyed, that could deliver his people out of mine hand, that your God should be able to deliver you out of mine hand? Now therefore let not Hezekiah deceive you, nor persuade you on this matter, neither yet believe him. For no God of any nation or kingdom was able to deliver his people out of mine hand and out of the hand of my fathers. How much less shall your God deliver you out of mine hand? And his servants spake yet more against Jehovah God and against his servant Hezekiah. He wrote also letters to rail on Jehovah God of Israel, and to speak against him, saying, As the gods of the nations of other lands have not delivered their people out of mine hand, so shall not the God of Hezekiah deliver his people out of mine hand. Then they cried with a loud voice in the Jews' speech unto the people of Jerusalem that were on the wall, to affright them and to trouble them, that they might take the city. And they spake against the God of Jerusalem, as against the gods of the people of the earth, which were the work of the hands of man. And for this cause Hezekiah the king and the prophet Isaiah the son of Amoz prayed and cried to heaven, and Jehovah sent an angel, which cut off all the mighty men of valor, and the leaders and captains in the camp of the king of Assyria. That was 185,000 men in one night. So he returned with shame of face to his own land. And when he was come into the house of his God, they that came forth of his own bowels slew him there with the sword. Also in Psalm 74, 18 to 23, these two words are utilized in verse 17 as hath reproached and people. Remember this, that the enemy hath reproached, O Jehovah, and that the foolish people have blasphemed thy name. O deliver not the soul of thy turtle dove unto the multitude of the wicked. Forget not the congregation of thy poor forever. Have respect unto the covenant, for the dark places of the earth are full of the habitations of cruelty. O let not the oppressed return ashamed. Let the poor and needy praise thy name. Arise, O God, plead thine own cause. Remember how the foolish man reproacheth thee daily. Forget not the voice of thine enemies. The tumult of those that rise up against thee increaseth continually. Lastly, Zephaniah 2, 1 through 10 presents this warning prior to the shutting of the door to salvation. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff, before the fierce anger of Jehovah come upon you, before the day of Jehovah's anger come upon you, seek ye Jehovah, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of Jehovah's anger. For Gaza shall be forsaken, and Ashkelon a desolation. They shall drive out Ashdod at the noonday, and Ekron shall be rooted up. Woe unto the inhabitants of the sea coast, the nation of the Kerethites. The word of Jehovah is against you, O Canaan, the land of the Philistines. I will even destroy thee, that there shall be no inhabitant. And the sea coast shall be dwellings and cottages for shepherds, and folds for flocks. And the coast shall be for the remnant of the house of Judah. They shall feed thereupon. In the houses of Ashkelon shall they lie down in the evening. For Jehovah their God shall visit them and turn away their captivity. I have heard the reproach of Moab and the revilings of the children of Ammon, whereby they have reproached my people and magnified themselves against their border. Therefore, as I live, saith Jehovah of hosts, God of Israel, surely Moab shall be as Sodom, and the children of Ammon as Gomorrah, even the breeding of nettles and salt pits, and a perpetual desolation. The residue of my people shall spoil them, and the remnant of my people shall possess them. This shall they have for their pride, because they have reproached and magnified themselves against the people of Jehovah of hosts. The next two words are their lives unto the death. And these two terms appear in 48 other citations. We'll just look at a few of these in the time we have left. In Genesis 19:19, we find recorded Lot's request to God in the persons of the two messengers, in which these two words are translated as my life and I die. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. We also read in Exodus 4:19, when God told Moses that it was safe for him to return to Egypt for the great task that God had prepared him for, namely to lead some 1.5 million or 2 million Jews across the desert for a period of 40 years. And Jehovah said unto Moses in Midian, Go, return into Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought thy life. And I'll close with Psalm 143, verses 1 to 12. And in verse 3, these two terms are translated as my soul and dead. A psalm of David. Hear my prayer, O Jehovah. Give ear to my supplications. In thy faithfulness answer me, and in thy righteousness, and enter not into judgment with thy servant. For in thy sight shall no man living be justified. For the enemy hath persecuted my soul. He hath smitten my life down to the ground. He hath made me to dwell in darkness, as those that have been long dead. Therefore is my spirit overwhelmed within me. My heart within me is desolate. I remember the days of old. I meditate on all thy works. I muse on the work of thy hands. I stretch forth my hands unto thee. My soul thirsteth after thee, as a thirsty land. Selah. Hear me speedily, O Jehovah. My spirit faileth. Hide not thy face from me, lest I be like unto them that go down into the pit. Cause me to hear thy loving kindness in the morning, for in thee do I trust. Cause me to know the way wherein I should walk, for I lift up my soul unto thee. Deliver me, O Jehovah, from mine enemies. I flee unto thee to hide me. Teach me to do thy will, for thou art my God. Thy spirit is good. Lead me into the land of uprightness. Quicken me, O Jehovah, for thy name's sake, for thy righteousness' sake. Bring my soul out of trouble. And of thy mercy, cut off mine enemies, and destroy all them that afflict my soul, for I am thy servant. Well, we'll have to stop here, and Lord willing, pick this up in our next lesson.
Thank you for joining us today for Searching the Scriptures. Until next time, to God be the glory.